use them in the comparative form and the superlative form, okay? Especially the superlative form. But we can talk about the superlative form if we don't talk about the comparative form of the adjectives. Okay, we are going to remember a little bit about this, about the comparative and superlative adjectives. Okay, so it says, when do we use comparatives and superlatives? When do we use this? Comparatives and superlatives adjectives. What do you remember from level? I guess you learned this on level 3. Then you repeat this on level 5, on level 8.
Comparatives, when we want to compare two persons or things,
People.
people or things between them. And
Okay.
superlative, when we want to emphasize in the adjective, in the people's adjective, or yeah.
Okay. I guess the superlative is
When
not that clear. What? Again, please.
comparative
Maybe
comparative is when we have to show a difference between two things, and superlative is when we have one to make a emphasis in one thing or person.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think the superlatives is to realize that one thing is better than the other.
Teacher, how do you say
Is
exagerar?
yeah.
Emphasize.
Emphasis.
Okay. Yes. Generally, we use comparatives when we are comparing two people, things, or places. Only two. Okay. And we use superlatives when we are comparing one thing with the rest of the group. For example, imagine that I am comparing Nicolas with the rest of the students. Okay, so I am comparing him with the rest of the same group. Okay, so this is the difference between comparative and superlatives. So the comparative, just two objects, people, animals, whatever you want. And superlative, one with the rest of the group. Okay, so it says to compare two or more people or things. We use these kind of comparative and superlative adjectives. Okay, so now we are going to see the structure of the comparative. Okay, so what is a structure? How do we use these comparative adjectives in a sentence? Do you remember? What do we use? How do we use these comparative adjectives in a sentence? What do you think?
I don't know if I am correct, but we add at the end of the adjective er, and
Mhm.
then we use than, and we mention the another subject.
Okay, this is the way in which we change the adjective, right? But what about the structure of the sentence? What about the structure of the
Is
sentence?
is subject
Mhm.
the adjective with er, but if the adjective is short, if the adjective is large, you put more, and then you put than, and then the other subject or noun.
The other noun. Okay, yes, very good. So this is the way, right? Here we have a noun, right? Then we have a verb, a comparative adjective, and done. We don't forget to use done always with comparative adjectives. For example, John, this is subject. The first noun that we are comparing is taller than Harry. So this is the way, right? Then we have, how do we structure superlatives? What about the superlatives? What is the structure of the superlative? What is the difference between the comparative and the superlatives in the structure? What do you think? Because this is a comparative, right? What about the superlative?
You put the noun, the verb, and the adjective with est, or if the adjective is large, you put most
Okay.
of the class. Yes.
Okay, yes, but there is something that we never forget, the, right? With superlative adjectives, okay? We have the noun here, the verb, the, and the superlative adjective. Very good. For example, we can say, the broccoli is the healthiest food here, right? So we are comparing the broccoli with the rest of the group, with the rest of the food here. Okay, so here we have the noun, verb, the superlative adjective, and the rest of the sentence, right? So now we are going to see how do we form the comparative and superlatives, okay? So you were saying that we change the adjectives when we are talking about the comparative and superlatives, right? Okay, so we are going to see this. Here we have, it says, what do we do with one syllable adjectives in the comparative form? What do we do with one
We add
syllable?
R at the end of the verb, the adjective.
Yes, at the end of the adjective, we add ER. And what about the superlative form?
ST or EST.
Yes, we add EST or ST according to the article. In this case, EST, right? Good. So here we have an example. Cold, colder, or coldest. Dark, darker, or darkest, right? So when the adjective is short, we add ER or EST for the superlative here and ER for the comparative, okay? Then we have here ending in E, okay? When the adjective is short and the adjective ends in E, the only thing we have to do is to add the R for the comparative and the ST for the superlative. Okay, cute is the adjective, fine is the adjective. The comparative cuter and the superlative cutest. Okay, here the comparative finder and the superlative finest. Okay, what about when we have an adjective that ends in a consonant, in a vowel consonant? What do we do? Cuando mi adjetivo termina en una vocal y en una consonante. Do you remember that rule? What do we do when the adjective finishes in a vowel and a consonant?
We repeat the consonant.
Okay, yes, we repeat the consonant. We double the consonant, right? For example, here we have to double G and here we have to double T. Okay, for example, we have consonant, vowel, and consonant. Okay, so we have to double the last consonant and add ER or add EST. Bigger, biggest. Hotter, hottest. Okay? Then we have the other rule. When we have an adjective that finish in we have an adjective with two syllables and this adjective finish in Y. What do we do? When the adjective finish in Y, for example, happy or sunny.
We change
We
the
put
Y
in Latin.
and add
We change the Y for
I.
for
and
I. Very good. We change the Y for I and
Also, we add
EST
ER
or
or
ER.
EST.
Very good. So we change the Y for I and we add ER or EST. Okay, happier, happiest, sunnier, sunniest. Okay, and then we have the last rule. When we have an adjective with 2 or more syllables, what do? With the comparative?
We add more, and to superlative we add most.
Yes, very good. So we can say most, more sublime or most sublime. We can say more frozen or most frozen. So these are some of the rules that you need to have very clear. I know that you have learned these rules before, but we are making a review so you can have this fresh and clear. Okay? Is there any questions about these comparative and superlatives? Okay. So here we have some exceptions too. Do you remember the exceptions for the superlatives and comparatives?
Irregular verbs.
Verb, but we are talking about adjectives, not about verbs. What are some of the exceptions that we have for the comparative and superlative? Do you remember any?
Good.
Good is an adjective that it's different, right? Any other?
Change together.
Good,
Bad.
bad,
Bad.
yes. And any other? So we have good, better, and the best, right? For the comparative is better, and for the superlative, the best. We have bad, for the comparative is worst, and for the superlative is the worst. And then we have also far, like far away, right? We have far, farther or farther, or the farthest or the farther. This is used more in the US, and this one is used more in the in the UK. Okay, so these are some of the exceptions that we have for the comparatives and superlatives. Okay, so we have some order to follow in the sentences when we are talking about comparative and superlatives. Okay, from here we are going to talk just about superlatives. So we need to follow an order when we are talking about superlatives. It says, superlatives often appear before the noun they modify. Okay, so if we are talking about the tree, the superlative form appears before the tree. If we are talking about a person, the superlative form appears before the person. Okay, I'm going to give you an example here. It's a sentence that is not in the correct order. I want you to check the sentence and I want you to try to order the sentence, okay? So this is the sentence. Read the sentence. I want you to order the sentence in the correct way. And don't forget to place the superlative form before the noun that you are describing, that you are modifying. If you have the sentence, you can raise your hand. If you have the sentence, you can raise your hand. Laura?
The most intelligent students here are John and Lisa.
Okay. Any other ideas?
John and Lisa are the most intelligent students here.
Okay. Yes, both of the sentences are correct. Okay. So here we have John and Lisa are the most intelligent students here. As you can see, we are modifying students. We are talking about students. So we have the most intelligent before students. Okay, let's see the next one. If you have the answer, if you have the correct sentence, raise your hand. Angela?
Um, she is the most beautiful girl I ever seen.
Okay, very good. She's the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. Okay, as you can see, the most beautiful is before the noun that we are modifying. Okay, so this is the order that we need to follow when we are using superlatives. Okay, then we have another thing. It says, sorry, superlatives. We are going to continue talking about this. It says that superlative can also occur without the noun they modify. It can occur without the noun they modify. Okay, for example, of all my friends, Lucy is the nicest. Okay, generally, we write here a noun after, after the superlative. Generally, we write a noun or we say a noun, but also we can use the superlative in this way without the noun. You can say the nicest friend or the nicest person, okay? But it is obvious that we are talking about a friend and that we are talking about a person, right? So that's why we don't repeat here after the superlative form. Okay, we don't say a noun. Okay, can you give me an example of this? Can you give me an example with a superlative form without a noun?
Teacher, I have a question.
Yes.
Can we use or put an adverb after the superlative in this way? You know,
For
like, oh, all my friends, Lucy is the nicest here, there, as we, you know,
yes, yes, you can say it. It's
or
the,
in the class, like
yes,
that.
it's the nicest in the class. It's the nicest here. Yes.
Okay.
Any example that you can give me using this form? Let's talk. Yes.
Yeah.
My niece is the cutest.
My niece is the cutest. Very good. And you don't need to say the cutest niece or the cutest person because it is obvious, right? Laura?
Uh, I was thinking about Angela's questions, and you could say, for example, Angie is the best of Kai. We can omit
The noun.
uh, the
Uh,
noun, but we can add a complement without a noun,
yes,
and
you can
is
add.
correct.
Mhm.
And what about if we say teacher Angie is the best of Kai?
It's better because if you say Angie is the best of Kai, we don't know the best what? The best student, the best director, the best, I don't know,
Okay.
the person who cleans. Okay, so if you say
But
this
but
at the
but
beginning,
we are saying, or I am saying that teacher Angie is the best of Kai. I am saying teacher Angie
yes, at the beginning, and
at the
this is
beginning.
good.
And
Mhm.
is it correct?
Yes, it's correct. Okay, let's see here. We have the other rule. It says, here we have another sentence. Of all my family, Carlos is the funniest. Okay. And it says that superlatives are often followed by relative clauses in the present perfect. Okay, so for example, Henry is the most amazing person I've ever met. Okay, so this is the clause that is in the present perfect that we can use when we are using these superlatives too. Here we have another example. Mr. Baker is the most inspiring teacher I've ever had. Okay, so you can use the superlatives too with a clause in the present perfect. Okay, I want you to give me an example using this form. Okay, we have been doing some of these examples, but I want you to try some new ones. Okay, so think about your example. And then we are going to share them. Okay.
My mom is the most funniest person I ever.
Again, please.
My mom is the most funniest person I've ever met.
Okay, very good. What about you, Edwin? What is your example?
Paulo is the most amazing friend I ever met.
I ever met, right?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So we are going to check exactly the same. You have exactly the same here in your book. Okay. Superlative adjectives. It says superlative adjectives usually appear before the noun they modify. As you can see here, we have the first sentence. The funniest person I know is my friend Bob. Tell me, what is the noun that we are modifying in this first sentence?
Person.
Person, right? So as you can see, the superlative is before the noun. The most caring individual in our school is the custodian. In this sentence, what is a noun that we are modifying?
The custodian?
The custodian, we are talking about
Yes.
the individual. It's like say person too. Okay, como decir persona también. Okay, so remember that the superlative appears before the noun they modify. Okay. What about the second? It says they can also occur without the noun they modify. Of all the people in my family, my Aunt Ruth is the kindest. Of all my professors, Dr. Lopez is the most inspiring. Okay, so as you can see, we don't have a noun here. And the last one, it says superlatives are often followed by relative clauses in the present perfect. This is very important in the present perfect, okay? So here we have the superlative. My cousin Anita is the most generous person I've ever met. And here we have the present perfect clause. The closest friends I've ever had is someone I met in an elementary school. Okay, so these are the 3 rules that we mentioned before, and you have the same here in your book. Okay, so let's practice a little bit this. It says complete these sentences with your own information and add more details, then compare with a partner. Here we have an example. One of the most inspiring people I've ever known is my math teacher. Okay, so it says, she encourages students to think rather than just memorize formulas and rules. Okay, as you can see here, we have the explanation of why you think that she is the most inspiring, or he is the most, she in this case, is the most inspiring people. Okay, so I want you to complete the sentences from 1 to 8. Okay, this is just an example, but you complete number 1, 2, and then we're going to share your sentences, okay?